The trial of Lori Vallow Daybell has been fascinating, to say the least. Disheartening, extremely sad, and disturbing all at the same time. All this weekend, we are taking a look back at some of the most compelling testimony and conversations surrounding the case of Lori Vallow Daybell. Here's another one.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Bruschi.
Some interesting testimony in the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. We're going to hear now from Rexburg Detective Chuck Kunsaitis testifying about the satellite images that were taken over Chad Daybell's property in the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell. Let's take a listen.
Jury's all present counted for, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Bailiff. Please be seated. Okay, we're back on the record on case CR 22-211624. The state continues with its case in chief. Mr. Wood, if you'd like to call your next witness, you may.
The state calls Detective Chuck Kunsaitis.
All right, just briefly, I'll inquire, Detective Kunsaitis, since you last were here testifying, have you reviewed or listened in on or in any way read any of the trial testimony that's occurred since you last were here?
No.
Okay, thank you for that response then. Mr. Wood, you can go ahead and proceed with your direct examination.
Thank you. Welcome back, Detective. You've already been here, but just for clarity of the record, could you state and spell your last name for the record?
Last name is Kunsaitis, Kunsaitis.
Thank you. Detective, you've already explained your credentials to the jury and explained that you've been involved with the case of the state versus Lori Vallow, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Detective, were you present at Chad Daybell's residence on June 9th, 2020?
Yes,
Did you take part in the search of that property?
I did.
At any time, did you aid in the recovery of the remains of Tylee Ryan from that backyard?
Yes.
The area where Tylee Ryan was located, was there a name given to that area, or was it was there a name given to that area?
The pet cemetery?
Okay. Detective, at any time in your investigation, were you a part of efforts to obtain satellite imagery of Chad Daybell's residence?
Yes.
Tell me how that came about.
So in late July of 2020, as the case was transitioning from a missing person into the homicide investigation, we were still monitoring the social media sites and came across a news story out of Salt Lake City off of KSL News. Their reporter was running a story that was centered around...
I'll object, Your Honor, to hearsay.
Your Honor, it's not coming in for truth of the matter. It's coming in to explain what the detective did next in his investigation.
All right. I will overrule the objection, but just indicate that it's for that limited purpose, and so to the extent it's quoting directly what anyone said, try to avoid that in your response, please.
I'm sorry?
So try to avoid any response that just directly quotes what anyone else said, if you can, in your response.
As part of your investigation, did you see a news story about satellite imagery
I did.
related to the Daybell residence?
Yes.
Based on what you saw in that news story, did you do anything in relation to that investigation?
So I followed up on the information that was depicted in that news story and reached out and contacted Apollo Mapping, which was the satellite company or satellite broker for that story.
Okay. And did you request any images from them?
We did. We requested any images, I believe from the 1st of August through the end of October for images with high enough resolution that we may be able to pick up details on the surface of the Earth.
Did you receive any images from Apollo Mapping?
Yes, there were 4 usable images that we obtained.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be shown States Exhibit 142 and 142A. 142 is a business records affidavit that defense was given prior notice of, so I believe that comes in by way of stipulation.
All right.
Detective, do you recognize States Exhibit 142?
I do.
What is it?
This is the certificate of authenticity for high-resolution satellite imagery from Apollo Mapping.
Do you recognize States Exhibit 142A?
I do.
What is it?
This is a flash drive containing the images of the requested images from Apollo Mapping.
Is that flash drive in an envelope?
It is.
Did you observe the contents of that flash drive?
I did this morning.
Did you initial that flash drive?
I did, and also dated it with today's date.
Okay, and did you place that flash drive in that envelope?
Yes,
Did you seal and sign it?
I did.
Is the seal intact?
It is.
Your Honor, the state would move for admission of States Exhibit 142 and 142A into evidence.
Any objection?
Your Honor, States Exhibit 142 does comport to be a certificate of authenticity under Rule 902 of the Idaho Rules of Evidence. I do not object. I have not had the time since handed this Exhibit 142A to review it since we've been in trial. But so I'll conditionally not object if the exhibit contains other items on there, then I may bring up an objection.
Okay, I'll keep that possible objection under advisement. Exhibit 142 is the certification. It's admitted. 142A will be provisionally admitted, I guess pending it being published and making sure that it's not something defense counsel hasn't previously had or has any further objections on. So if you'll just move through things slowly if you do intend to publish it, Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, may I publish, and then I will do so slowly in a manner that defense has a chance to object if needed.
Yes.
Detective, what did you receive in terms of digital information from Apollo Mapping?
We received the images and the raw data that accompany each photo.
Okay. Did it come in a folder like that?
it was placed onto a folder like that. It was downloaded over the Apollo mapping website.
Okay. Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to ask if the defense has any objection. There's these .tfw files which came with the Apollo mapping, which is data, and then the actual images, which are these TIF files.
All right.
It appears to be what it claims to be, Your Honor.
Okay, so no objection at this point. Mr. Wood, you can continue to publish.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask that the witness be handed again. I apologize. He should have kept that. The business records affidavit.
Thank you.
Detective, when you received that business records affidavit, did it include information about the photos you received?
It did.
Can you tell me what the information contained about picture, the date and time of picture, the first picture is?
The first picture depicted is given the date of August 27th of 2019 at 18:33 hours UTC. That's the coordinated universal time. But when adjusted to Mountain Standard Time, which is the time zone we are currently in, you take off 6 hours, minus 6 hours, so the time of day is adjusted to 12:33 in the afternoon.
Okay. Detective, is this that first image?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to zoom in. Oh. Do you recognize that property?
Yes, this is an overhead aerial image of the Chad Daybell residence located at 202 North 1900 East in Rexburg, Idaho.
Are there any landmarks that you recognize on that image?
Yes.
And if you could use a pointer just to point them out real quick.
This is the main Daybell residence. This is the 1900 East. And this is the detached garage and shop. Here is a marker. It's a large bush. We have a fire pit right here. We have a standing section of fence. It's like a wood fence that's got 3 or 4 rungs on it. It's about maybe 10 feet long, 8 to 10 feet long, if I recall. And then right here is a hitching post, which is shaped like an H. It has a large diameter post, like, I don't know if it's the same width as like a telephone pole or something. It's kind of a large diameter, and that's the marker. At the base of that, there's a marker. It was used for the pet cemetery.
Detective, can you tell me about the second picture, about the date and time it was taken?
The second image was taken on September 2nd, 2019 at 18:32 hours UTC. So again, adjusted for Mountain Standard Time, that's 12:32 in the afternoon.
Detective, is this that second picture?
Yes.
I'm going to zoom in on it. Is this the same property that you've been speaking about, the Chad Daybell residence?
Yes.
Okay. And the landmarks are the same as you saw before?
Yes.
Can you tell me about the date and time of the third picture?
The third picture was taken on September 9th, 2019 at 18:32 hours UTC, so adjusted for 12:32 in the afternoon.
And you said that picture was taken September 9th?
Correct.
Is there anything remarkable about that date in your investigation?
Yes, as pertinent to our investigation, we believe that's the time frame, the day that Tylee was killed and buried on the property.
I'm going to zoom in. Detective, is this that same property?
It is.
It appears there's some cloud cover on that, but is there anything about that picture that stood out to you in your investigation?
Yes. So, again, just to reorient, you have the main house, the detached garage and shop. Here is that standing fence section, and then you notice a large, discolored, darkened shape there right where the immediate area of the pet cemetery marker.
Okay. And what time of day was this picture taken?
This was taken at 12:32 in the afternoon, and approximately, it was less than an hour. Picture was taken less than an hour after we know that Alex Cox left the property.
Detective, can you tell me about the fourth picture?
The fourth picture was taken on October 25th of 2019 at 18:42 hours. So adjusted for Mountain Standard Time, it was 12:42 in the afternoon.
Detective, I'm going to zoom in. And is this that same property?
It is.
With the same landmarks that you observed before?
Yes, the residence, the outbuilding. You see the fence, and you also see the hitching post at the pet cemetery marker, along with the fire ring and the bush for markers.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor. Detective, so this is the same property. I'm going to go back to the picture taken on September 9th.
Okay.
And zoom in on that property. In your investigation, was there anything significant about that discoloration you spoke about earlier?
That was in the immediate area where we found tightly.
And this picture was taken September 9th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, the state has no further questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Any cross-examination, Mr. Archibald?
Detective, did you ask for all photos from this Apollo mapping company?
We did. There were several photos that could have been used, but due to the capabilities of each satellite, how it was explained to me, how they're programmed. So some are for higher resolution, some are for lower resolution. There's different elevations. So the satellite images that use the lower resolution will just pick up topography, like shapes of the mountains and the hills and the layout of the land, where the higher resolutions will depict sharper images that you're able to discern, like a house or a vehicle. And so out of all those images, there was only 4 that used that high enough resolution for us to.
And are these from a satellite that only passes over the property every 5 or 7 days, or is it a stationary satellite that's continually taking pictures of the same place?
I don't know. I believe that the satellites are moving around.
Okay.
And orbiting.
And so, did you send them Apollo mapping a subpoena, or did they just provide these voluntarily?
We sent them, the images, or are we talking about the
Yeah, the images.
We had to purchase the images, So the images totaled about $1,500 to purchase from the company.
I see. And so these images on the September 9th one, in your investigation, you believe this is the day that Tylee was buried on this property?
Yes.
Do you believe it's the day that she was burned on the property?
Yes.
Is there any indication in this photo from September 9th of smoke or fire?
No.
And is this the day that Chad Daybell texted his wife that he's going to have a fire in the backyard?
Yes.
And when you were out there in June of 2020, was there evidence of a fire the previous fall, if you could tell?
No.
This fire pit that was there in June of 2020, had it been there for some time? or was it, or could you tell?
I believe it was there for some time.
So this fire pit that you observed in June of 2020, was it like for roasting marshmallows or burning limbs from trees, or could you tell?
There was evidence that there was debris that was being burned in there, and it also could be used for having a marshmallow roast.
Okay. And so in your investigation, have you been able to tell if Tylee was burned there on that property or burned somewhere else and transported to that property? I don't want you to speculate.
I'm not going to speculate. I just know when we were removing her remains, there was, you could smell fuel. So that's what I can speak to.
Okay. Any evidence of a fire in the fire pit and then having Tylee's remains dragged over to where you found them?
There were pieces of bone fragment and tissue that we collected that were sifted from that fire pit. So there was something there. Whether to say if they went from the pet cemetery to the fire ring or fire ring to the pet cemetery, I can't answer that.
Okay. And the image that you showed us from September 9th was that 12:32 in the afternoon?
Yes.
And a little bit cloudy on that day?
A little cloudy.
But as far as you could see on that satellite imagery, there was no smoke or fire that you could see?
No.
All right, thank you, Detective.
Any redirect?
Just briefly. Detective, in the photo from September 9th, is the fire pit obscured by clouds?
Yes.
That's it.
All right, thank you. That'll conclude the testimony of this witness then.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition
This is the Hidden Killers podcast.
with Tony Bruschi.
Rexburg Detective Chuck Kunsaitis testifying about satellite images taken over Chad Daybell's property. We have more for you. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss any of our coverage in the trial of Lori Vallow Daybell right here from the Hidden Killers podcast. I'm Tony Bruschi. Stay with us.